And she says sort of, I'm paraphrasing, and it's going to sound so harsh, but I want to be clear that there wasn't harshness in her voice. It shocked me. And it was hard to hear, but again, I don't think she was wrong by what I was transmitting to her. She said, you're too young to be a character actor. You're not thin enough to be a leading lady. You're not pretty enough to be a leading lady. And she kind of goes through this list of things. You're not heavy enough to be a character actor. You're not unattractive enough to be a character. She goes through all these things and she says, maybe in 20 years, you'll make a living as a character actor, but probably not.
Welcome to the Funny in Failure podcast, a podcast that celebrates failure and shines the light on the emotional side of comedy. With yours truly, Michael Kahan.
Oh, welcome. We're in for a real treat for today's chat. I love how Kirsten embraces herself, her authenticity, and her light. She has a great energy and vibe with a unique style that is so wonderful to see and hear. I also love her stream of consciousness and how she genuinely wants to see the world flourish. It's quite contagious. There are many highlights in this chat for me, but one of them is how Kirsten embraces her creativity and even success long before she got, inverted commas, traditional success. She also follows her bliss, and I love it, and the results are beautiful. Another thing that stood out to me was how, despite a casting director telling her that she wouldn't be a successful actor and how her mum was organising an intervention for her with good intentions, she still kept following her passions. I love this. It's encouraging and inspiring. We dive deep. Also, before we get into it, in the next few days, Criminal Minds Evolutions will be out. I believe is streaming May the 8th, so check it out. Okay, let's get into it. Kirsten Vangsness is an actor, YouTuber, podcaster, graphic novelist, and playwright. She's most known for playing Penelope Garcia on the long-running CBS crime drama Criminal Minds, for which she co-wrote 5 episodes, including the series finale. In 2020, Kirsten launched her YouTube series KIRSTEN'S AGENDA as a way to promote mental health, wellness, and civic duty. Kirsten's also been deeply involved in the LA theatre scene, scoring 2 Ovation Best Actress nominations for Fat Pig at the Geffen and Everything You Touch at Boston Court, LA Weekly Best Playwright of the Year nomination for a theatre of note, production of Potential Space, and winning the Los Angeles Drama Circle Best Comedic Actress. She's also a longtime member of the Hollywood Theatre of Note, where she serves on the art board. In the summer of 2019, Kirsten took her one-woman show, Mess, and her space rom time travel woman in history musical, Cleo, Theo, and Wu, to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival and was greeted with 5-star reviews and sold-out shows. She's also the star and executive producer of the film noir spoof, Kill Me Deadly, which can be found on many streaming platforms. She can currently be heard on season 2 of the comedy podcast, Voyage to the Stars, as well as a sometimes host of PRI's Selected Shorts. In 2020, her animated short, Kirstens, based on a short story she penned, was accepted in film festivals around the globe, and she also created a Cleo, Theo, and Wu graphic novel. She's also the recipient of the HRC Visibility Award, the Open Fist Excellence in Arts Award, and has been honoured for her work with many charities. So as you can imagine, we dive deep and we cover a lot, and we chat about criminal minds, embracing success, a love of acting, zone of incompetence and excellence, imposter syndrome, interventions, writing, dyslexia, creativity, ideas and nurturing them, plus plenty more. Also, for the Criminal Minds fans out there, we've also been fortunate to chat with AJ Cook, Paget Brewster, and Joe Mantegna, who are all incredible in their own right. Check them out as well. Before we get into this epic chat, in case you aren't aware, the videos are now available on YouTube under Michael Kahan. That's Kahan with a K, unless you're listening to it already. I'll still be posting snippets of these chats on Instagram under Funny in Failure, so check them out if you want to stay in the loop for upcoming episodes, or you want to ask a guest a question. I'd also love it if you would share the podcast or share your takeaways from the chat. It really motivates me, helps the podcast grow, and ensures I can lock in amazing guests like this one And just as a final reminder, the podcast comes out at 3:30 Melbourne, Australian time, with the full video of the podcast to be released the following day. Okay, cool. Thank you. Let's get into it. You've had many jobs outside of acting. I'm just going to name a few of them. I think you defrosted rats and fed them to snakes. You're a teacher. You wrote grants. You worked in mystery theatre, a bank teller, worked with foster kids. What was the best job and what was the worst job?
I think the worst job was I did work at a bank, and I invariably was either significantly under or significantly over
Okay.
when I would like when they would do this. I'm not. I think my imagination is good for a lot of things, but concrete numbers
Yep.
is probably not where. And I have a hard time holding on to numbers in the order in which they appear, which is great. It's really actually great because it makes you really different about. I can't tell you how many times I have to find out how much I get paid because I will forget because I just couldn't tell you. I can't tell you how much. So, you'll be like, that soup is, oh my God, that soup is that much. And my brain will decide if that's expensive or not, just depending on my mood. So working at a bank with a concreteness, it was not a fit for me. Actually, briefly, like for a day, I worked at a like AT&T, and I that was also not a
Your
good.
mobile.
It wasn't AT&T. It was like a cell phone company, like a
cell phone. Yeah.
like doing like I don't want to name that. I don't even know what it was, but it was like being in like a call center. That was also bad. And I would say the best would be, I think there's a book I love. It's like one of my tomes, and it's called The Big Leap. I think everyone should read it. It's by Gay Hendricks, and he talks about your zone of incompetence. And he says that those are the things that you should hire someone else to do if you can,
Ooh.
because there's somebody else that's their zone of genius. That's their zone of, they could do that all the time. Or maybe it is their zone of competence, but they need the money. You know what I mean? So like, if you can pay someone to do the things that are in your zone of incompetence, like I should not be trusted to really clean anything, probably. Like my car, I should not detail my own car because I will not clean it. I will just decide to put more things into the car. So there's things, and then there's your zone of excellence. Those are the things that people think you're really great at, but it doesn't feed you. And then there's your zone of genius. And it doesn't mean, I think genius is the way that what is it? The Greeks, the Romans, or I heard Elizabeth Gilbert talk about it once.
Oh, I love her.
Genius is a thing that visits you. Genius is not, you don't have to be the best at it. It's just the thing that you could do all day. You can talk about it. You go to bed at night, you wake up in the morning and you're like interested in it. So to me, that's your zone of genius. And I would say that when I was a substitute teacher, that was my zone of excellence. Like people would tell me I was good at it. And when I was not being able to pay my $500 a month apartment, it was like, oh, I should become a teacher because everyone said I'm good at it. And I am interested. Like I love, I'm curious. I love people figuring things out. I'm a pretty good teacher, especially because I'm not good with numbers and I spell things backwards. And I think it's a really great thing to have a teacher who doesn't have any answers, because the kids are like, good luck. You're going to have to help her because she's not really as far ahead as you think she is. And so, but I wasn't, it exhausted me.
Yep.
It also exhausted me.
Like drained your energy.
There was a cost to it in a different way. And like the whole time I was doing those things, any of those jobs, I was absolutely simultaneously at the exact same time in at least a play, writing at least one thing. At the exact same time.
Yeah.
So where now I do the thing I do for a living currently right now as we speak, I am on hiatus from Criminal Minds. I'm on hiatus from Beyond the Wizards of Waverly Place, which is another show I'm on a lot right now.
Nice.
And I'm writing 3 shows. I'm making something for the Hollywood Fringe. I'm doing a reading this weekend. I'm doing an art salon. I'm going to New York next week to do something. Last week because I'm not, no one's paying me for any of that. I'm doing it because I love it so much. You know what I mean?
That's great to hear.
So I was already doing this. And I think this myth we have about there's your day job, there's commerce and there's art, and you fill your commerce well, and you figure out what you do to fill your commerce well. And then you figure out what you do to fill your art well. And when you're filling your commerce well, it becomes commerce. Like, I love the things I do. I love it, but you're performing a service. And on a good day, you might get some art out of that, but you might not. And you better go find something else. That's at least how I see it. Because once you stick money with art, it becomes like this other thing. And that could be because I do a lot of things that I do that aren't like out in the world and people aren't like funding.
Yep.
And maybe I'd change my tune if I was getting paid for all. I'd be like, it's all art. But so far I don't think that. But my point is, I was good at those things, but some of the things I was good at, but not in the way that like I can do it all the time and I will do it for free and watch me. You cannot, wild horses couldn't get me to, I'd get the wild horses to join me. I'd be like, come on, wild horses. Let's do it.
I love that. And I've written down a few points, and this is really exciting. This is just something I've been thinking about. You talked about your zone of genius, your zone of incompetence. And for example, I think that's really important because we're not necessarily meant to excel in all areas. And I encourage people to work on their weaknesses, but also to acknowledge that we have weaknesses and sometimes people can do it better than us. So whether you're a writer and you get someone maybe to just write down dot points of what you're trying to say, then you can formulate it into a sentence. Or I've got a friend and we've been talking, he's a content creator and he spends maybe 40 hours just making the video or with subtitles. So he's hired someone to do the subtitles, but it still means he can do his art. He's just saving a lot of time and energy. And I think that's so awesome because we kind of think we have to do the whole thing, but we can put our hand up and ask for help and get people, to flourish with us if they're on the same page. I think that's a crucial point, especially as a creator.
Yeah, I think that there's a part of the thing that needs to come out. And I think if you take the pressure off, it's not even about pressure. I just think that like genius is something, our job is to keep ourselves as open as possible. Our job is to keep ourselves as human beings in general, as flexible as possible. So you can allow as many things in, right?
Yes.
And that means you have a good life. You don't make a mess of it. You make sure that like your life is as like authentic and unfettered as possible, because to make something I write a lot of things, and a lot of things I think about use a large degree of like compound words that I'm making up or words I'm making up. And I will get confused with my own, like I can't spell, and I gave up. I mean, I'm not dumb, but I have like bona fide, like, we can call it dyslexia or we can call it, I just can't spell. And if I could, I would have, but to waste the time on that. So it's okay if I have to record myself and then take the transcription and slap it up on the computer. That's okay.
I think that's very clever.
It absolutely counts. And I think that, when I first wrote an episode, and again, I've written a degree of things. I've co-written 4 episodes or 5 episodes of a television show.
Yeah, that's so cool.
I don't think my therapist would get mad at me at saying this. She's like, you're not supposed to say that. You're not supposed to collapse. What do I want to say? How do I want to say this? I want to tell you that there is a part of my that is more interested in, she's afraid of being who she is. So I want to say out loud, oh, I don't think I'm a writer. Now there's a part of me that knows I am, and you kind of have to. This is the game. Is you can find all the evidence in the world to prove that you're an imposter. I can find all that. Trust me, I can find it. All the evidence in the world, but it's just boring to collapse. And it's so much of a risk to not puff yourself up. Brene Brown speaks of this so well, but not puff yourself up, but just stand in the knowledge of like, I'm trying to do this. I try to write. I am a writer because I write. You know when I'm not a writer is when I'm not writing. That's the only time I'm not a writer. And sometimes I'm not a writer because I'm not writing. I'm looking at Instagram and I'm pretending like I'm
Like
writing.
in that moment. Yeah.
Yeah. But like when I wrote a few of the Criminal Minds episodes, I had to write a scene the way that Erica Messer, the executive producer of the show, and I write them is she'd like take half the script and I'd take half the script and then we kind of keep switching.
Oh,
and so it has the same voice. But when I first sit down and you have an outline, you're writing with, what the scene you're writing, right? Or I'd sit down and I didn't know what to write. So I would literally do this. I would write a character. So I would write JJ, AJ Cook's character, right? JJ.
love it.
Says something important. That's the line I'd write. And I'd write Rossi says something to agree with the important thing.
Yeah.
Lewis says something that disagrees with both of them. Like that's the scene I wrote. And then I just stare at it and then be like, okay, now you have to fill that with information because that's the best you can do. And I guess what I'm saying is my long way of saying you can do things in bites. It doesn't matter. I don't even know if it matters if you get there. I was going to say, it doesn't matter how you get there. I don't even think it matters if you get there. I think it matters that you try.
Agreed. And also just on the writing side, because I do writing as well. And I've written a few scripts and now I'm writing a new one and it's been a while since I've started something new. And I put all this pressure on me because I won an award in writing. So I'm like, I have to make it magnificent and all this stupid pressure. No one even knows about my writing at this stage. And I've been doing exactly what you've been doing. I just write dot points. The character A should say something like this. Character B would give a look. And then you slowly chip away at it. And then it gets so much better. But just that slow chip is actually been so profound because I feel like I have to write an amazing scene every day. That's probably not going to happen at this stage. So I love that. And it's a life skill for everything. We don't need to just become the CEO. Just chip away and we will eventually hopefully get there or we'll learn along the way.
Absolutely. I do a thing here in Hollywood. I'm doing it on Wednesday and we've been doing it. It will be 2 years this July or 3 years, 2 years. I wanted to get myself writing and I didn't know what to do. And I'm a member of a small theater company in Hollywood called Theater of Note. And we weren't using the space. And I said, can I come in? Can I borrow the space? And I'm going to come up with this thing and it's called Bits. And we do it once a month. And I call it a performance art salon. And anybody can be in it. The only rule is you have to have come to a Bits in order to be in a Bits. And we have regular performers. And what it is it's a night where we have 10 people get up and show a newly created thing that they've made that's 7 minutes or less.
Yep.
And what I like about it is it's intentional that it is newly created. So we have a mic stand, we got a microphone, you don't have to memorize it. So it's like songs, it's bits of scripts, it's poems, it's you name it. People have in 7 minute increments and under, a woman did a whole show. She wrote because she came like she was in the night like 8 times last year. That's 8 times 7. That's 56, right? I don't know math. Again, we're back to 48. Anyway, it's one of those numbers, of minutes of material that she created, and she got to create it in front of people because that. We all can say like, oh, I sit at home and I make things, but there's something when you have the bravery to let someone read it, to say it out loud in a room and to feel the dead air and to feel the electric air that is super duper special. That you can't get, I mean, you can get it from journal writing. I think that's a great gateway drug. That was certainly my gateway drug, but it's, I get to see genius in so many different people by doing that show. It's amazing. It's like and it's amazing what you can do if you give yourself that boundary. Like it doesn't even have to be 3 minutes. It can be 2 minutes. It can be anything you want. And everybody has something that they can make. And then I think if you give yourself something to make, it gives you instant hope. Even a reason to get up in the morning. And that's why I wish for everybody to find something that is their creative thing, because that is what makes the world better. The opposite of destruction is not peace. It is creativity.
Oh, that is very interesting. And I love that.
I did not come up with that. My best friend said that the other day, but but it's true.
We'll credit you because you own it. It's not just empty words. I think I agree with you. There's something, I used to work as an accountant, so I resonate when you said you're a bank teller. And I just felt, and this is not a go at anyone working there or just for me.
No.
Not that you didn't say that.
Because that's their magic, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I've got one friend who works in stocks and it lights him up. Something I find incredibly boring. And he is so passionate about it. We need more people like that. You know what I mean? It's not for me. And I just felt like this void of creativity. I had stand-up aspirations at the time. I was dabbling in writing and I felt like a shell of myself. And then when I, made a commitment to more creativity, it just felt like I leveled up, I powered up. There's something about it. And it doesn't need to be for a career, as you said. It can just be like a hobby, but it does something in us. It elevates us. And I truly believe everyone's consciousness will expand. And as you said, that's kind of how
yeah. And it totally makes sense. I understand. I mean, that's what I don't know if I understand the desire to have a lot of people look at your work. I understand that desire, and what we think that will make it that will mean something if a lot of people,
all of our problems.
And you can do that. You can put your art. I go through this all the time where I'm like, I'm going to put this thing that I made on Instagram or on YouTube or whatever. And you do it because you want people to see it. And you also do it because you want people to like it or resonate with it or make them light up that part of themselves or whatever. But if the super fame bit was something that fed you, there would be a lot of super famous, really, really happy people doing really happy things. And you don't see that a lot. I'm not saying that famous people aren't happy, but I don't think that the one makes the other thing.
Agree.
I think that they're separate. And I actually think that the fame and the exposure, there's a cost to that. And the payment is not that, you feel more at one with your creativity. You might get more. Actually, I think you get more. I think about this. I got no real affirmation. You don't get a lot of affirmation for creating when, you have two jobs and you do these things and you're doing a play at 11:30 at night that 4 people went to. You don't get a lot of attention for that. You get a lot of attention when someone can point to your face in a 2-dimensional form on a TV screen. And so that you get instantaneous feedback of good job. The other, you think about it, people that are at home just working on their novel or reading a scene that they're interested in or painting a picture and not a lot of people are seeing it. Those are the real rock stars. That to me is real punk rock, awesome business, because you're doing it truly for the love of. You're not getting strangers coming up to you and being like, you're great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's really important. And it's very important intention wise. For example, I want my stuff to be seen, but I don't want to be famous, if that makes sense. I want to inspire, each thing that I've created has a different intention, but it's effectively to raise the consciousness of the planet through love and light. But I have no desire to be famous. But if my number one desire was to be famous, then I think that takes away from the art and I'm doing it for my wrong reasons, if that makes sense.
It's interesting because I think it can get in our way when we, and I'm just speaking for myself, I think it can get in the way when you put a limit on it and say, okay, but I don't want to, because I found myself doing that. I was all I want to do is make a living doing this. It's I want to make a living doing this. And then, but you're but I also don't know if I want everybody to be in my bit. It seems maybe not too famous. And you try to
find the
control, you're I'm God or the goddess, playing with the levels. And I think that you have to let the work, I have to teach myself this. I'm not saying Kirsten, just let yourself be gigantically famous, but maybe I am saying that, but it kind of let the work do what it's going to do. Let the
Yep.
ripples do what they're going to do. And then, you know, it'll be fine. But I think we have to, you and I, Michael, have to just be fine if we become famous. Okay.
You are famous, but I think thank you
I
for,
forget I'm famous. That's the way I get around.
you were very polite and you can call me out on my shit. I don't care, but you're very,
No, I'm telling you that I don't know I'm famous. And so let us both be in the same
okay,
boat.
we'll be equally famous together. Thank you for sharing your abundance with me. But I think another key point that you brought up was the limitations. When you're creating, and I do this all the time, okay, I'm going to go Netflix, it's going to be 3 seasons, I'm going to do this. Forget about the limitations, just focus on the work, focus on why you do it, focus on why you love it, and the rest will happen. You can't control everything else. And that's a lesson that I need to, I work on.
I think you can control what you want to feel.
Yes.
And then go for that.
Agreed.
I think you can go like, I want it to feel like this, and this is what I think it'll look like. I think the only reason why we don't come up with, I know the only reason why I don't come up with solid dreams, real clear ones, is because I know that when I do that, I can make it happen, and we fear it. So you go like, but what if I get that? And what if I want something different when I get there? But I forget, and I think we all forget, that you can actually adjust as you go along, baby. It doesn't go that fast. You get to like be like, oh, you know what? You know what I mean? You know what? I want it actually like this. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I didn't know it was going to feel like that. Maybe I want it like this. You get to adjust.
That's so okay. First of all, I will talk about your spirituality, if you even call it that, but you're a master manifestor, and I've heard all of your other stuff, so it'd be very exciting to hear about it. And I can see you smiling. I think that's also really important, just from an adjustment point of view. Like there was one role that I was up for from a very minor acting role, and I didn't like the hours, and that's fine. I know in acting you don't always work the hours, but I said to myself, and I've been like working on writing on it, changing my relationship with the hours, or being like, okay, it doesn't need to be 3-hour drive from where I am. Maybe I can do something a bit closer. Just small. I know that's a terrible example.
No.
But just you know, great role, but being a bit more specific of exactly what I want. And I've got no problem waking up early and working long hours. It was more, do I need to do 3-hour drive, or would I work there? Just, you know, small little adjustments along the way. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that I remember I got this, I got a part on a show called LAX that was about the airport, and I played a stewardess, and I was terrified. And as I am when I get most things that I want. And I was going, they had done my hair, and I was walking in to my trailer, and you know, I have to work on everybody's got their own like part, you know, things that they got to work on. And one of my bags of rocks is to kind of feel like it's okay for me to take up space. It's okay for me to be here. I have to practice that still. I can, you know, and I think it's good that people hear me say that, because I know that I come across confident. I mean, I hear that a lot. So I know, and in a way, in that like, I am confident in knowing that I also feel wildly insecure. So like I can hold those things at the same time. So anyway, I remember walking into my trailer, and you know, you have this little, it's called a honey wagon, or that's what they call it here in America. It's I don't know why it's called a honey wagon, because it is like, it looks like a teeny little hallway, and there's a little, like, it looks like a bed you could lay on, but no human could actually lay their whole body on that bed. And then there's sort of a toilet and sort of a sink, but it's like the tiniest room. And it's basically just, it's a room for you to get changed in, but you know, you have at least enough lines that you have your own little, you know, little space.
Yeah.
And so I'm going into my little space, and I turn, and because I was talking to the guy I had the scene with, and he was one of the regulars on the show. And he turned away and he went walking the other direction. And I saw him open a door to this bigger trailer. And it wasn't a huge trailer. It was just bigger than my trailer. And I was like, I could feel, it was just like a little quiet. I want that.
Yep.
There wasn't anything more complicated to it. It was just like, oh, I want that. And I remember like walking into my little space and being like, okay, because I was so appreciative of having that job too.
Cool.
I was playing with that. You know, I think it's an important thing. I think I still play with this. You play with the like, oh, I have this thing. And isn't this so wonderful that I have this thing? And isn't it so wonderful to want something? Isn't that wonderful? And can you hold that energy without feeling like they have it and I want? Because of course you're going to collapse into that, but can you kind of play with it and go like, oh, look at that over there. Isn't that amazing? But then also not attach the proper nouns of it. You know what I mean? Not attach like that person has it. Why do they have it? Are they better than me? Just sort of the soft, like, okay, it's okay where I'm in right now. It's okay. And it's okay to want. And I think, I get a little flustered even when I say that, because I think it's hard for us. And I've spent my life figuring out like, it's okay to want. It's okay. And I feel like I spend my life trying to tell other people like, it's okay. It really is. It's okay that you want that. And it's okay that other people have it. And you know what? My partner has a sticker on his guitar case and it says, freedom, you can have it all and I can have it all. Freedom isn't pie. You know what I mean? It's not like if you get a lot, I don't. And sometimes someone else's success I can feel it. I can all feel it. Contract. Like I haven't done something in time. It's too late.
Yeah.
I didn't do it right. Whatever. But like it can all be there all at the same time. It's just a good reminder for me, as I say.
I love that. Okay, you like sharing abundance is really important. And I gave this example years ago, but one of my friends got success and I was jealous of him. I've worked on this. I'm actually really happy for the experience. And I realized he had what I wanted. But then through a lot of like just diving in, actually within like an hour, I figured it out. I was like, his success is amazing. It doesn't have any impact on me. In fact, him being in that space is actually good for me because I'm part of it. I'm sharing in that energy. His happiness can only impact me. So now when I see people, especially in my circles who succeed, I don't have those thoughts anymore. I'm just like, that is so awesome. And then going back to what you said about, I call it, and you can tell me if you call it something else, kind of that gratitude mindset where you're in your trailer or the honey, whatever it's called, and you're not being like, oh, why do I have such a small room? You're very grateful you got this role. This is great. You've seen something else and, putting it out to whatever and being like, I really want this. I love what I've got. I really love that because it does something to your brain. I've seen a few research on it, but when you come from this like outlook of like gratitude, it makes life so much easier as well. And I think you're more easily able to access things as well.
Yeah, I think so. And where did I get this? I can't remember where I got this from, but it's the difference. You have to, well, there's the Einstein. You get to choose if it's a friendly universe or an unfriendly universe. Either way, you're right.
Yep.
There is, it's the difference between starvation economy and abundance economy. So starvation economy, right, would mean that like, if you have it, I can't have it. There's a lot of like, or like you did it before me. Now, I think that there's bits of this, let's be honest, to me. I feel like I'm having a conversation right now, Michael, with you and myself. Like, come on, Kirsten.
Yeah, no, I love this. This is how we learn.
Is like ideas are coming to you. Your little sparkies are coming to you and saying, hey, do this, go there, because they want to be with you. If you don't pay attention to them, they will go to somebody else.
Exactly.
And you will be sad. We've all had it happen. It will hurt your heart when you go like, I was going to do that. And now that person did it because that idea was there with you and you didn't love on it and it left and had to go somewhere else. Now, again, if we go to abundance economy, there's more ideas. It'll be okay. But that one, you didn't. So pay attention and love on up on them and do your thing with them because they will go. But I do believe in like, I think that I always have this is my thing. I have a weird thing about gratitude because gratitude to me, although don't get me wrong, I can be very grateful about things. Gratitude to me can sound like that to me. There's a tinge of like almost unworthiness. Like I am undeserving, so grateful of this.
Yeah.
So I always use the word appreciation. And I am a really big believer in, I believe that I'm very intentional with my words. I'm very intentional with the things that I have, how I see Penelope. I'm very intentional because they give me a lot of freedom with how she speaks. I'm very intentional with the words she uses. I believe that language can really help our brains grow if we can find a more expansive ways of seeing things. And that is not to say, like when you were saying about your friend, you're like, I don't get jealous anymore. I get jealous all the time. I have the most base, icky, angry, childish, all of those feelings all the time. And the key is, I think, to not think they're true.
Oh, but it also sounds like your override is, yes, you feel, and that's very important, and I do as well, but you override those functions and you have that conversation and you're like, you know what, but this
I would
is
like
still...
to think so. Or I just try to remember that this red hot minute, I don't have to do anything about it just right now. And I like appreciation, because I like the word in that, like, appreciation, it does mean to grow. And I do believe that if you appreciate something, you get more of it. And I do think that to be able to hold that tension of somebody has something you want and you want it and you can't have, and it's hard because it's so much easier to collapse. I know, especially, I live in America, and it is heartbreaking what's happening collectively and what's happening with the arts, which is where we have so much, where things grow, right? We have a president that wants to destroy the Black Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. They're tearing down pieces of art that were meant to transcend deep pain that groups of people have gone through. And I think that it's very easy to just be like, but it's all horrible and it's all into collapse, or like, I have nothing, and to collapse. That's easy because you know the answer. And to stay hopeful that things might get better for you, to stay hopeful that things might get better for the world by being committed to creativity is the brave choice. Because I'll tell you right now that every single person that's interested in authoritarianism or tyranny or anything like that is very interested in creativity not existing. Because we can't have creativity creates hope. Creativity creates spaces. You want places to live. You want to care about people and space when you have hope. You don't want to care about it. You get desperate, you get starvation economy when you take away creativity. When you bring creativity into the room, now we've got options, we've got both, and we get to live in this weird, flexible, it's okay that your reality is different than my reality, we'll figure it out. You get to be in all of that. But when you shut down queerness, when you shut down all that stuff, you narrow it down to just nothing but white bread and mayonnaise. And but at least we know what it is. You know what I mean? At least it's right here. I've gone off at a terrible tangent. I'm sorry.
No.
And I said, I'm sorry.
You don't need to apologize, but also I won't get into the political side, but I think what's one of the many points you said, which is great, especially about creativity, is not falling apart. There's always going to be things that we focus on. I'm not talking about politics in terms of...
By the way, let me be really clear. I am absolutely talking about politics, because politics are art. Culture and politics live right next to each other. And our job as artists always is to make the revolution, to make people being able to live in kinder spaces. Our job is to make that as attractive as possible. In everything we make, our job is always to show that there is a more collective way to be. So when I want to be really clear that I am absolutely talking about politics, and I know I can annoy people because there's a lot of people in America who love, I think people call Criminal Minds like propaganda, meaning like propaganda with cops. And it can be, because there's good and bad folk and all the things, although I personally I'm a big fan of the FBI. But I think that like, I can get accused a lot of time of like, oh, she's virtue signaling or she's, whatever, she's just acting. And I think it's really important for me to be like, I'm absolutely, I'm not signaling, I'm more than signaling. I'm putting up giant neon signs and flags that say, this is not Kirsten, is a safe place for every single weirdo. And if you've got a problem with the weirdos, if you've got a problem with the kids who get, chucked into trash cans, because I'm one of those kids, this isn't a safe place for you. So don't, especially because I play a character that people relate to so much. I always want to be really clear, like, to be kind is the punkest thing you can do. But to be kind means that you have to be a little dangerous and you have to call people out when things aren't okay. And you have to be political. I'm sorry about it. Like, it's just the way it is. You don't get to have it both ways. Art is political. And my job is to make, in my little way, the revolution as attractive as possible. So, but Michael, I totally hear you. You are not being political. I, though, am.
No, I wasn't commenting. I meant with what my statement is about to be. It's not a political statement.
No, I know. But I
appreciate your take.
I feel like I have to say that out loud because people, I've noticed in the last couple of years, people try to, morph what you say. And so now I'm like, no, I'm not going to mince words. Just going to be real clear.
Yeah. You want a clear delivery. I want to go to what you're there's 2 points. One with the crumbling side. And regardless what's happening in the world, there's always something that's happening that's, inverted commas, terrible. But I really like your empowerment take is, by focusing on creativity, you can give yourself that space. Yes, there are things happening all over the world, and it's very easy to, as you said, crumble and, give up, and that's fine. But what you're also empowering one or me as well to go, you know what, there's still things you can do within your tool set to, thrive. And I think that's super important. And my second point was actually when you mentioned ideas, and you've got a very unique take. You probably read Big Magic and you've probably done a lot of around ideas of how they,
and it's happened to me. So it's happened to me, and I've watched people come to me and been like, oh, you made that, I was going to make that. So I've watched it happen to other people, and it's happened to me.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly with me. I think like how this podcast, for example, came through meditation, for example, learned experience, but then meditation. Half of my scripts have come purely from meditation. And I know I've had those conversations where I'm like, just write it down. And you're like, nah, I'll remember it. And then I don't. And then you see like a version of it and you're like, well, one, it wasn't meant for me. But two, it could have been meant for me, but I didn't honor, that space. And that's fine. Not everything. Yeah. That's really cool.
One time I had a play that I love very much, and I will do something with it. I mean, I've already written the play, and it was
nice.
It was a little bit flawed. And it was opening night or round opening night, and I'd gotten a pretty decent amount of people coming to it. And for a 40-seat theater, it wasn't like a big deal. But somebody came up to me afterwards and said, I work with, and they prattled off a name of a person in the entertainment world that was well known at the time. It was really, really hot at the time. This is like 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And they said, she's doing something like this right now. We're doing that. I'm just letting you know. I came to see it because I work for them. And I was just letting you know that we've already got it in whatever development or something. And I felt like, oh, and it felt like a warning shot, almost like, well, don't do anything else with this then.
Yep.
And I didn't, and I haven't. And you know what? There hasn't been anything like it, that play still. And I'm like, Kirsten, you got to pull that thing out and do the thing but that was enough just to hear so I think that if you have an idea and the idea gets, quote unquote taken, and you're like, oh, they did it. And now it doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means that you need to make sure you're so authentic with the way you tell it, because there is no other you. So they did their version, but you could still do you, and even if someone said, you know what, this is just a knockoff of such and such, that's just more practice for that's just more creation. The job is not to create all kinds of spectacular things. The job is to create these things that your body is saying, create this. That's the job.
I agree. And one thing that springs to mind, and people are going to laugh at me at this example. I wrote this script many years, and then this one scene, and Curb Your Enthusiasm did a very similar version. And I was like, everyone's like, oh, that's your bit. I'm like, yeah, mine's still a bit different, but it's like still the similar premise. But if anything, that just gave me confidence to go, well, if Curb did it, then I'm on the right path.
But it means you're participating with the collective unconscious. And, I have a couple of brilliant therapists, because sometimes you need more than one. But and
sometimes people resonate for different reasons and for different, goals and
absolutely.
Different,
absolutely. And so my this therapist, her name is Ann Dobbin. It's brilliant what she says, so I'm just saying her name. She said that and my other therapist, Joni Davis, is also brilliant. She's the one who tells me about essence qualities and expansion and all of that. But Anne really has explained this idea of like sometimes you might get the attention, and sometimes you might be the handmaiden, and being the handmaiden is still special. I really think, I was telling my friends the other day, I think in 5th grade, I started using the phrase, I think I invented the phrase, pump your brakes. Now, it can be argued that I didn't, and I probably did. In my mind, I did. And I'm holding on to that. Now, somebody else got the credit, but I think I think I was the handmaiden of that phrase. So I don't know.
I'll give it to you. And tying back into a few things you said before, about art and how you want to share it, and sometimes you just do things for the love and the joy and the passion. I wanted to give a real world example. I think, is it called Kill Me Deadly? I could be... Yeah. So I think this is really fascinating. You invested a lot of, we won't talk about the money side, but you invested a lot of money into it. But your goal was not only to, reveal this art to the universe, but you actually wanted to support people that you knew and allow them to have a living wage and, work with people that you love. I'd love to hear a bit more about that, because that sounds like
it sounds very altruistic when you say it. And it was much more, and I think I do a lot of things that can sound very altruistic. And I want to be really clear that I would say 97% of the things I do are very selfish. And I am proof that you can do incredibly selfish things. And when the act of being selfish actually looks like you're being super generous. So it's something to think about, because I did that movie because I loved the play. We had done the play. It's an incredible play written by Bill Robins. And we made a short of it, and we shot it at Musso and Frank's, which is this beautiful institution of an Italian restaurant here in town. And I got Shamar Moore to play the piano in it. I said, will you come and just play the piano in this little thing? And we kind of didn't know what we were doing. We kind of did, and we kind of didn't. But we shot this short, and then I showed it to people. I showed it to people at work. I showed it to and everyone was like, well, you're going to make more? You're going to do more? And I was like, yeah, well, I guess we should, because who else is going to do this? Who else is going to understand this thing we're doing? And so we decided, I basically would work on Criminal Minds and get a chunk change, and then just be like, how much can we make? How much can we make? How much can we make? We did a Kickstarter campaign to kind of get people involved. And we used that money for the post stuff, the stuff we did in post-production. But the entire filming of it, I paid for. Now, in a regular film, I didn't pay for all of it, but I paid for a lot of it, most of it. Yeah. It was a union film. And so that meant that people that weren't union, people that weren't in the Screen Actors Guild or the Directors Guild or the Writers Guild or the hair department, we Taft-Hartley'd everybody. So we made everybody union. When you make everybody union, you have to pay them more money. So I wanted everybody, because I work at this job where everybody makes a living wage, and I am a member of a theater company, and I work with a lot of actors, some of which make their living as an actor. And some people, especially now with all the streaming stuff and the way that big corporations have gotten around to paying people a living wage and turning everything into a gig economy, people can't make a living in the same way. So it's really it's much more fun to work with people when you're all, that's why I love this new idea of like, they just did a movie where everyone made the same amount of money. Like, it's much more fun, I think, to be creating with people when you're like, oh, I don't have to have, that's why, like, I agree with you about like being aware that there are terrible things in the world and there are wonderful things in the world. It's not that we ignore the terrible things. It's that we treat the terrible things with reverence. Like, I think I can't believe we live in a world where we would watch someone die. I think it's a very sacred thing that we should not be witnessing, but I should know about it. And I should do what I can do in my power. And sometimes what's in your power is a deep breath or a prayer or something, that's still in your power. I should be aware of that without hooking up and getting some anxiety supply from it or something like that. Being able to look at it with reverence and saying, that's someone's life. That's a real thing that's happening to somebody, and their life counts just as much as mine. And there's a reverence to it. There's a story in it, and it's important. And this is important. And so like with, and now I've totally gone off the rails, but
No.
with Kill Me Deadly, I think I was like, we wanted to create an environment where we all were going to the same job, where we all were making enough to live, and it was exorbitantly expensive for a movie that was all of the money was, some of it was on costumes, some was on set, most of it was on paying people, not exorbitantly, but just everybody getting a living wage. And by just independently doing it, no studio or anything like that. The great part about that is we have a beautiful movie that is so strange. It's gorgeous. It looks gorgeous. You can find it on all kinds of streaming things. I think it's on all the regular streaming whatnots. It's called Kill Me Deadly. It's weird. It's funny. It's like if Airplane and it's like if Airplane had a baby with the Maltese Falcon and also slept around with Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's very but I'm so proud of it because we have people that worked on that movie that now work in the industry, in the prop departments. That's how they got in. And how I got on Criminal Minds was because I did a play with a friend who was working in the casting department of Criminal Minds, and she recommended me. And I believe firmly in like, there's enough for everybody. I've always believed very firmly in that. I agree. Us girls at Criminal Minds, we will tell each other, we'll text each other up and be like, I'm getting paid this much, because we want everybody to know like what you should go for. This is what you should go for because you're fantastic. So I'm telling you what I know. And I think that
yes, you're not holding it on your
shirt. You don't need to do it. Is so boring. It's so boring. There's enough. And I even whenever I want to do that, because don't get me wrong, I always want to do that. I want to do that with candy. I want to do that with money. I want to do that with, like, sometimes I don't give away clothes that I don't wear anymore because I'm like, but someone else will wear it and they will look amazing in it and I will be jealous. Like I do it with things, but like there's plenty. Okay.
I agree. I agree, and I think it's so important in all facets of life, especially creativity. One can thrive and you can thrive. And something you said, which is really interesting, and I've been learning about this, but I don't have quite the words how to say it, but being selfish can actually be a really good thing, depending on how you go about it. For example, it could be seen to, selfish to spend all your money, which you didn't do, and do a movie, but your intentions behind it was, yes, I want to do a movie and spend a lot of time, spend a lot of money, but I'm going to do it for these reasons. I'm going to get people involved. I'm going to create jobs. I'm going to work with the best people. And I think it's actually really important to focus on, the word selfish, when you've got a desire, can be seen as selfish to other people. And I think it's important that potentially we can change the relationship with that, because there's nothing to feel bad about if you want to do what you want. Obviously, intentions are important. Yeah.
You can make the thing better for yourself by getting more things involved. So yes, I could spend a lot of money just for a movie that was good just for me, and that would be all fine and good. But it's better. It's better for me because I get to surround myself with other amazing, talented people, some of which really shine in that movie and make me look good. Yep. So there's a way of like, yeah, I mean, I guess, but like in the end, it serves you. It does nothing but serve you.
I agree. And I think that's really important because I know like sometimes nothing springs to mind, but that was a good example. When I want to achieve something, it could be perceived as selfish because I'm not spending as much time with my family or whatever. But as long as we're aware of what our intentions, honoring ourselves, although it could be seen innately as selfish, is actually important for us. And,
Absolutely.
yeah.
When I started bits, I wanted to rent the theater so I could do pieces of my performances. And I was just going to rent it for me. And I was like, oh, that's probably not sharing. And I was like, I'll put other people in it. And now it's been going on for 2 years. I don't put all the pressure on myself. I get to perform every month, but we do it. And we actually, now we give the money to charity. So we give it to a different charity every month. We get different people to perform. I get to perform so it works out better. More people come because there's other people in the show besides me.
You've got a very good relationship with that, and I want to build up to this. And going back to your jobs and all the various jobs that you've done and the learnings you've had from that, I think it is so crazy that around that time when you were working multiple jobs, that I believe your mum called you up and she's like, "Hey, we're going to have an intervention for you. Can you tell me?" Because that's crazy when we, people have heard your bio and resume, they've heard you speak. That just sounds like a pivotal moment in your life. And yet, can you tell me a bit about it?
So I was not successful in the traditional sense. I was I'm 52 now, so I was probably 30. I was probably 30, I think. And whoever's listening to this, and if it gives you any kind of anything, just substitute whatever age you are, because we're every age we've ever been, and time is all happening at the same time. So it doesn't matter. So you're not too late. So my mom and my sister, and it made sense what they said. It wasn't anything particularly cruel. It was just, hey, we're gonna we had this little vacation we want to go on, and we hadn't spent a lot of time around each other, and so we were going on this little vacation just in Ojai, real close. And my mom and my sister had saved up, and it was just this very modest. My mom's a public school teacher. It was just like, we're just gonna go away for 2 days, and she said, "We're letting you know that this is to tell you need to quit acting. We're letting you know." Like, it was very kind of sweet. They're like, but I think it was also their way of letting you like, you can't like call me in a panic when you haven't been able to pay your car payment for 3 months in a row. You need to do something. And I was like, I was not really nailing this life thing in any capacity.
Well,
when
on that, sorry, I don't want you to take away from your story. It sounded like, although you may have not, inverted commas, had traditional success, you were still enjoying the acting along the way.
Oh, yes. And, actually, I was enjoying it. I was not having traditional, but you know what was really when I say like, I was not nailing it, I was beating up on myself a lot, and I wish that we didn't do that so much to ourselves when we're in those fragile, vulnerable, soft times when we just have the love that's sustaining us, and we're having to do a bunch of other things, and we're beating ourselves up, which takes away our energy. So then we don't have energy to do the life important things we've got to do, like have a job and clean our house and whatever. So but I was doing this practice where I was going on a nature walk every day, and going on a walk because I felt like I had nothing. I felt like I had no money. I didn't have anything that I really wanted. And I really wanted to show myself examples of abundance. And the 2 places that I found abundance were this nature center where there were a lot of trees, and the library where there were a lot of books. And so I would try to play with that. It's not perfect, but it works sometimes. Also music. There's a lot of music. I would remind myself of that. So my mom and my sister said, "We're going to take you on this thing." And I knew it was coming, and they weren't wrong. And I had already given up acting probably 5 years prior, because I was in a relationship and they were talented, and I thought they're more talented than me. I'll get a regular job. And it was terrible for me. That's the problem. People think that they can put it away. You think that that's a choice. Like they thought, and I thought when they said, we're going to give you an intervention, that it's a choice. It's not a choice. Your body is telling you to do it. End of conversation. You're supposed to do it. Figure out how to do it. Have 3 jobs. Figure out how to do it. Do it for 15 minutes a week, but do it. And so, so they said I had to do this and this intervention. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then I got a call from my friend that I had auditioned on that job. And she said, they want you. And she was not trying to get me the job. She was me and her were trying to make me help her look good.
Was this your friend in casting?
My friend Gina was in casting, and she was new at that job, and she just needed to bring in people to prove to them, I know good actors in town. She said, just please make me look good. You're never going to get this. And there was no kind of freedom then like that, and I have a wonderful acting teacher that I've just been taking class with. Her name's Lee Kilton Smith. And she talks a lot about how if you can make it about the other person, it really does open it up. If you can find something, not in a fake way, but in like a real way, like how do you serve that person? You get it off yourself, and there's just freedom there, And so I went in and did this audition and thought nothing of it. And then I got it. I called my mom and my sister. I was like, I can't go this weekend because I'm flying to Canada.
Wow.
They're shooting the pilot of this cop show. And they were like, tell them you can't do it. And I was like, no, I'm going. It's just 2 days of work, but I'm doing it. Yeah. And I went and I thought, well, and flash forward to probably 6 years after that, when I had time, I took them to that same hotel. I got fancy rooms.
That's so good. I hope you got the room for yourself. And no, you guys can stay at the lobby.
I did. Oh, I got my own room.
Yeah.
Nice. We were going to share a room, all of us, the first time. And I was like, no, we all get our own rooms.
What? That's so crazy. And I love also how you're like, it's a part of you. Creativity is a part of you, and acting's a part of you. And you can't just say no, whether it's 15 minutes. That's so important. And that's a message I needed to hear, because I know like when there's been highs and lows, financially, for example, mom and dad were like, don't you go back to accounting, or I did kinesiology. And I'm like, ugh. Look, I can do it like part-time, but I can't get rid of this. Like it's picked me, that I'm like a slave to it, but I love being a slave to it because it's very important. But anyway,
that book, The Big Leap, you should really read that. I think I will. Yeah.
And then back to, and I want to talk about your courage, but also courage not only to embrace your path, but courage to embrace yourself. And this wasn't the first time you've been disencouraged to pursue acting. You had a casting director who, I'll let you say, but she pretty much said, I don't think you should do acting, and you still did it anyway. So can you tell me about that?
Oh, yeah. I got an audition for a very big deal casting director who was amazing. And she was. And I was in college at the time, and I would get cast in things, and I was like, this is the thing I've been good at. Like, it's the one thing that I flunked out of high school. Like this was the thing I was good at. And I went to this woman and went in with my picture and my stuff, and like she had seen me in a play, so she knew. She asked me to come in.
Oh, nice.
Sit down, and she goes, so what do you think you're going to do after you graduate? And I said, I'm going to audition, and I'm at Paramount Studios, where this is where the meeting's at. And she says, no, you're not. And she says, sort of, I'm paraphrasing, and it's going to sound so harsh, but I want to be clear that there wasn't harshness in her voice. It shocked me, and it was hard to hear. But again, I don't think she was wrong by what I was transmitting to her. She said, you're too young to be a character actor. You're not thin enough to be a leading lady. You're not pretty enough to be a leading lady. And she kind of goes through this list of things. You're not heavy enough to be a character actor. You're not unattractive enough to be a character. She goes through all these things, and she says, maybe in 20 years, you'll make a living as a character actor, but probably not.
Wow.
And I walked out, and I was standing by the Paramount gates, and by the way, which I live very close to now. I live by where this happened, so it all works out. I heard a very loud noise was the sound of my dreams crashing. And then I went, okay. And it's not courage. It's just what it was like. It was actually a relief. It was like, okay, I don't need to worry about getting paid to do this because that's not going to happen. But what did not go into my head was, well, now you stop acting, because that's not going to happen. She just said I wasn't going to be successful. So, and I would go on the random audition, and I would go for the 2-line part, which was the parts I was up for, and I would never get it. And more than once I got told, you didn't get it because it was just too much. I'm too, there she is. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but like that's what happened. And, or I would just collapse in on myself that someone was paying me. I could get paid to do this thing I love, and I would just collapse and I would lose myself. And here's the fun fact is that this is years later. And I would say that exact same thing can happen to me at any given moment, depending upon, how I'm feeling or how well I've taken care of the artist in my charge, that I can collapse into like, let me try to be who they want. And then I'm nobody, or puff myself up way too much. So I'm on blast. And so it's not like, oh, I learned my lesson. It's not that at all.
That's the human.
But that, that happened. And then I just kept doing it. And because I can't not do it. And that's the thing, like nobody cannot do it. Even those people who are listening, like, oh, I stopped. No, you didn't. You yearn, you do it in your sleep. You think about it. You dream about it. Just do it. Like, just let it out and do it.
I love this. There's so many factors, and I know you've spoken about this before. And I also like that you chose to take, inverted commas, the positives from this story, because you could see it in many different lines. And one of the angles you could have seen it is this casting director is destroying your dreams, telling you you're never going to do it. But what you did is you didn't take it as a disempowering act. She was giving you the information that's from her worldview, and you're like, okay, I'm still going to do it. I'm just going to, maybe not be, financially abundant at that.
Yeah. We live in a world, right? We live in a world with people that are in charge in our industries that we love. And those people that are in charge are listening to what everybody is saying about that industry, right? And they're taking in that information, and their job is to translate and bring what they think people want, right? But she was saying to me, and I think when people say like, oh, that thing isn't for us, I really think that a lot of mass media and stuff, it's like chewed up food.
Yeah.
It's old thought.
Yeah.
So someone's telling you that you're not a fit or that doesn't work. That doesn't mean you can't do it. That just means for that industry, what they want, you're not a fit to. But this idea that because a bunch of people told you you're not a fit, therefore you should not do it. Like, all those people, I hang out with them on the regular, and most of them, it's all high school, and everybody's got imposter syndrome, and everybody's looking around to everybody else and be like, is this cool? Is this cool? Is this cool? Everybody's doing that. So like, they don't hold the keys on what you get to do with your damn free time. You know what I mean? Like so, I mean, I guess that's how it is. It's like, I have to remind myself of that a lot. If like, I don't know if you're familiar with that, that Saturday Night Live character who goes like, it's so hot right now. Like, what's cool, right?
Yeah.
That's sort of what Hollywood and everything is. And then people try to chase that. And it's like, that ain't it. And sometimes you hit it, right? Sometimes what you're making and what's in the culture, and it makes some beautiful mush of stuff, and that's great. But like, honestly, the way that culture is right now, sometimes I'm like, I don't want to be a match. I'm fine. Like, I'm fine. I'm going to keep making my stuff. And if and it's okay. It's okay.
I love this. I don't think you understand how empowering this is. And also just one small point, well, it's not small, but also taking away the pressure. Because, I put, for example, a lot of pressure. I have to get these scripts made. I have to do this. And that takes away, and we do it in all facets of life. taking away that pressure from yourself, that was a choice you made, which is really cool. But then also one step further, and I know you said you've had a varying relationship with this, in that you decided to embrace yourself. So with Criminal Minds, you went in, obviously the character's not 100% you, but you decided to embrace the character of how you wanted to do it. And I think that's really important. I'm kind of waffling, but because I've got so many points, you decided to go in as you, how you saw the
I'm in no
character.
hurry, so you don't feel like you've got to.
Okay, cool. And
Yeah, go ahead.
you embraced yourself getting this role, so applying for the role. And it's because of your authenticity, your quirks, your personality that allowed you to get this role, I believe. And then you even used your clothes and you brought more of yourself to it. And if you didn't embrace yourself, your uniqueness, you may have not got that role. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, I think that's actually, there was a moment. At first, I didn't know what was going on, and I don't understand that one. I wonder about it a lot. I wonder about it because, but I think I was just so beginner's mind that it worked to my advantage. I remember when I first started, I just took up meditating again recently. And so for the first 2 weeks of meditating, I was like, oh, I remember this is so beautiful. And then once I start getting used to it, that's when the demons really start coming up. But when I got the job and they kept bringing me back, I was just sort of, I was in it and it was like, okay. And I started to realize, first, I just care. I care about creating the things I do. I really care a lot. So I was trying to do things. I was bringing in like random props. I brought in my grandma's candy dish because I thought they're going to fire me any day. And then I'll have to come back and get the dish. And then I can walk by the art department and be like, do you guys need an assistant? Like I had all these ideas.
Yeah.
So I would drop these things off and do stuff. But then also they were kind of dropping hints. I could tell that like everybody, the producers and stuff, the writers were like giving me compliments and things, and they liked me. And I could feel that. And I was probably like the third episode. I not only dyed my own hair, which don't dye your own hair if you're on a national television show, and accidentally turned my hair green. So I had to go into work at like 2 a.m. to get it fixed because I had tried to dye my own roots. Then I was late. Now, look, this is the truth of it is my dad was dying. I had a very complicated relationship with my dad, but I had been up. I had been trying to go to the hospital, all this. I spent the night at a friend's house so I'd be close to LA so I could get there on time. All of that is basically a grand excuse. I still was late for the thing that I care a lot about. Now I have a very good reason, you could say, but still, I go into work. They don't care about that reason. I'm just late, and late in an acting job is huge. Yeah. There's hundreds of people that are all getting paid that are just waiting for you. And my boss came in, the guy who was running the show at the time, and the other guys, and they were being a little different. And I'm pretty sensitive, so I could feel it. Mm. And I knew, I was like, I was like, oh, I was late today. I kind of said something, and one of them said, mm-hmm. And I took it in, and I was driving home that night, and I realized, I was like, Kirsten, we're at a choice right now, because I thought that when I would start to touch my dream, I thought I would be able to become a different person. I thought I would be able to watch her be cool from over here. And I suddenly realized the girl that is going to make her dreams come true is the same one who self-sabotages, who can't clean her car, who, is super insecure, is way too self-deprecating. Like, it's me. I'm going to have to be there. So I have to hold on to myself and not ruin this. I have to make an existential leap to be the person I think I can be before I'm her. And I have to pretend like I'm her. And I have to have faith that I'm her. And I made a choice that day. Nice. And by the way, I don't think I've ever been late since, or if I have, it's been by like minutes. But it was like,
and you've done a lot of episodes as well. So that's a pretty good strike.
So, but it's like this, it's like to be in that, like, I have to sit with me in all of the things about me that I feel so much shame about, because I can't hide them. That's one of the things about me is I'm not like, I can't hide things, I don't have that in me. And I can play a character. I can find parts of myself. I can chameleon like that, but I can't hide what is, so I had to be this person now. And with that became more and more and more like, because it's super easy actually to kind of be like, I think it's easy to be like, oh, I'm gross, or oh, I am this, but to hold like, wait, you think I'm special? To hold that is pretty terrifying. And to then move through that and through the years to move through that, to recognize that you can be all of those things. Anybody can be quirky. Anybody can be beautiful. Anybody can be hideous. Anybody can be imaginative. It's how you hold it and feel it in your body. It's not another human being externally looking at you and making a judgment. Certainly not some stranger in their living room looking at a two-dimensional image of me and saying, she's hideous, or she's beautiful, or she's funny, or she's quirky. You're having that experience, and then someone else is resonating from that. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
But it's something I've had to like figure out as I've gone along. And I think as I've done that, I've gotten more and more and more and more and more at peace with who I am, because I can't escape her. Like, I just am her. And Penelope is so much her, and we're such neighbors. We're not the same person, but we're such neighbors. And I feel because they let me do so much with her, they gave me so much permission. I got to, there's nobody like her. And I would say I'm not like her at all. There's nobody like her. And I feel so honored that I get to play her, because she has attributes that I don't have. And I get to sit in them on the regular and borrow them, because I am her biggest guardian.
And okay, I love your enthusiasm and your passion. And also a really important, one of the many important things you're saying is, by embracing yourself, the best and the worst. I believe that's how you've been able to flourish as well, especially in this role, because if you were too scared to show different parts, I don't think that would come into the show as well. And, the longevity side is crazy. It's probably one of the most successful characters of all time, if you think about it. 300 plus episodes. I'm not sure how many you've been in one of the longest
I've
running.
been in every single episode except for episode 5 of Criminal Minds, the original. And I was in every single episode of the first spinoff. And I was in, I don't know how many of the second spinoff, but more than I think I was in 4 or 5.
That is crazy. And going back to what I was trying to say is that, you've been told, whether it was your family or casting directors or other people in your life that, you're not going to be able to do this, or you're not this, or you're too much this. But even though it's a journey, you've been able to embrace yourself, the best, the worst, the quirks, all of that. And I think that's been, one of the many reasons why you've been able to flourish. And I think that's so important, in that, you could have easily been, disempowered and, think you have to be a certain way, but you chose to be you. And so I love that.
I thank you. And I think that is it's like coming out. It's like you have to come out I have to come out all the time. I think that you have to constantly come out, because people are, oh, I didn't know you. Yes. And then you have to explain it and whatever. But I think that that's the same thing about embracing yourself, is that I have to embrace the version that is becoming, and be like, okay, now we're like this. And also, being on a show like that and playing her specifically, one of the beautiful things about her that I get to experience firsthand out in the world, wherever I go in the world, is that people connect to her and relate to her, and they see themselves in her. And at first there's a version of it where you're like, no, she's mine. I think initially I was like, no, I'm making her. What do you mean? And I like things just my way, and I'm pretty, I'm very individually. But then I realized, no, she's for everybody. And when I've written 5 episodes of the show. I've maybe watched out of however many hundreds we've done. I've possibly watched maybe 10 episodes. I've never really watched the show. It's way too violent for me. And for me, because I'm not a genius, I know we have a lot of genius directors in our midst of AJ and Adam and Joe and Aisha and Zach. We have a lot of geniuses that create. So they watch it a lot, you know. I don't do that because to me, it's like I'm watching, it would be like someone's a nurse and he has a video camera and you're like watching it. It's just weird. I would sit there and be like, my face does that? Like, what is my face doing right now? Like I would, so I don't watch it, but like people connect to her. And I love that I get to participate in that with them. Like they're having an experience about themselves that I get to weirdly participate in. I think that's so cool.
I love it. And I've had Paget on, I've had AJ on, and they talk about it in, same light as you. And you guys sound like such a good team. So I'm glad that you found that as well.
Oh yeah. It's hard to explain to people. I mean,
I enjoy Mantegna.
It's hard. It's easy to explain. It's just like, it's as good as you think it is. Like to be around all of them, like, it's amazing.
Because AJ, for example, she spoke very highly of you and how you've helped her as well. So it was very nice to hear.
You know what? I haven't gotten to that part of the interview. I listened. I thought I was like, no, I've heard it, but I'm shocked because I was like, I heard that whole podcast, but maybe I didn't. I'm excited now. I didn't hear the whole thing, but I thought I was near the end, but I haven't gotten to my part.
I love her. I love all of them, and Joe Mantegna as well. We had him on recently. But anyway, what I was saying to what you were saying, and also that's not empty. Like a lot of people go, "This is the best show ever. Oh, it's so good," and then they hate each other. You genuinely feel like there's absolute love. And I was wondering as well, what do you attribute? Just piggybacking from what you said, what do you attribute to not only the Criminal Minds success, but your success within the show as well? Because as we've seen, there's been controversies. People have been let go. We don't need to get into it if you don't want to. There's been. You've had a producer that didn't want you to be there early on. You've had it all, and also just 300 episodes. Maybe a writer could be like, "Let's just kill her off for whatever reason." Why do you think you've been able to flourish and thrive?
I think the show is so successful because in every iteration of it, and as we have discussed, I've been in every iteration of the original recipe of this show. There is so many distinct personalities, but everybody really cares about everybody else. Everybody cares about everybody else. And so when you're doing a scene, or at least, there's that thing where, there's that thing I love, which is like, you just need 3% of the population to have a shift, and then everybody else, or 11%, and then everybody else can shift.
Maybe even one. Yeah.
Well, maybe we just need one, but all I know is the vibe. Do you just need one? Do you just need one?
Well,
everybody.
Sorry, I've taken you off. Like one, I believe that the more empowered you are, the more that radiates to other people. But there's all these spiritual numbers where you just need 1% of the people to raise their consciousness and the whole world expands. But I do believe that
I do believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have there's a Crowded House song called The Weather With You. And the lyrics are, everywhere you go, always take the weather with you. And I do believe that like you get to be like, it's important for me. And like, I'm good at that. And I think that kids that grow up in certain kind of environments learn to be good at that, learn to be like, I'm going to pick up on everything else that's happening out here. I'm going to get myself centered so that everybody knows that I'm going to stay self-regulated here. Like, and I particularly am really good at staying self-regulated in chaotic places. But I think that there's always been love with the cast. And I think that the predominant amount, it's just always been like that. So you're doing a scene where you're these characters and you're all talking to each other and you all care about each other. So, and that's happening underneath here. So everybody wants everybody to do well. And everybody knows everybody's thing. So you're taking care of their thing. Like, I know that Matthew doesn't like to talk about computers and stuff. So if Matthew has a line that has to do with computers or has to whatever, and we're in a scene together, Matthew's going to be like, could Kirsten say, yeah, I'll say that, or I'll show you that. And then, okay. And then this part, okay, I know that person feels like that. So I'm going to look over at them. So you're having this underneath as actors, you're like, oh, you see me and you whatever. So that environment has always been created there. I think Erica Messer is just a wonderful showrunner, and she sets the tone of that. And Joe is everything.
Yeah.
Joe is everything. And so if you want to know like how to make a beautiful workplace, just get yourself a Joe Mantegna and it's done.
Oh, that's so cool.
So yeah, so I would say that. And in terms of Penelope, my favorite thing about Penelope is that Penelope doesn't believe that there's such a thing as an evil person. She believes that there's despicable behavior.
Interesting.
And anybody can participate in despicable behavior, and anybody can choose to do something different. And I think that sense of like, you are approved here, she's to me, she's my Mr. Rogers. She's my Kermit the Frog. She makes you feel safe, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's why. Also, to be perfectly honest, I think I was pulled off of the whole lady thing. There was not a requirement for me, which is stupid because those two women are, there was not that requirement for me to be a certain size, to look a certain way, to be novel, because I was probably seen as kind of a Muppet on the show. You know what I mean? I don't know, it's terrible what happened with them. And wonderful and righteous and cool that they're back.
Yes, I agree. Well said. And also just adding on, which I think is so, I don't know if many people would have picked up on it. You talked about, maybe Matthew doesn't like talking about computers. And as an actor, a lot of actors, and you can all do it at various degrees, you want to be seen as, good and, you want your aura to shine. But being able to go, you know what, Matthew, you don't like that line, I'll take that line. Even if, inverted commas, it doesn't make me look the best that I could. I haven't heard about that. I heard about that very little. But to hear that you guys, can kind of, take little bits and help each other out, that is rare. That is a great culture.
Oh yeah,
right there.
you came to set. It's literally a whole game of like, wait, okay, if I stand here, I'm not in your light, right? Okay, so I'm gonna. Okay, so how are you gonna? It's an embarrassment of riches in terms of like generosity. It really is.
And congratulations to you for being in that space and allowing it to flourish. Last thing probably on that, is there a new show spin-off or can you tell me about that for people that
of the Criminal Minds?
Yeah.
Yes, we're about to enter our third, our next, I can't remember. I'm not good with numbers as we discussed.
I'll put it in the episode notes.
Third, maybe it's fourth. It's third season of Criminal Minds Evolution. I think the new season of the one we filmed in America is going to come out on the 10th of May.
Yep.
And then we're going to start shooting the new one in a couple of weeks after that.
Cool. That's amazing. What date did you say was coming out?
I think it's coming out the 10th of May. I think the new season, the season that we've already shot.
Yeah, amazing. Very excited for you. And I just want to tie up a few things before we do a rapid fire segment. You mentioned that you have or had dyslexia, and you also previously I heard you say you had a lisp. What has helped you and what has helped you with your confidence? Because obviously to pursue something like acting, for example, that could be, I've spoken about this a lot on the podcast, that could be quite daunting for some and maybe scare people away. Can you tell me? I think that's so cool.
Brings me confidence. I read aloud a lot. I still do. I think that helps a lot. You figure out your tricks. I think with things like dyslexia, for me anyway, I have my tricks and you just honor them. You know what I mean? Like I've got a thing now where I can't work. I have to leave breadcrumbs for myself for the things I did the day before, or I'll forget exactly what I did. And you just have to like be in agreement with that. You know what I mean? I'm just in agreement with like whatever she needs. We're basically, I see myself as like, I'm in charge of this little animal called Kirsten, and I've got to figure out how she works all the time. And she changes. You know what I mean? It's like your own little dragon. And you have to be like, what does the dragon need? Oh, the dragon needs this to be able to read. Or the dragon is never going to be able to spell the word friend. Okay, dragon, it's fine. You're a dragon. You can't be everything. And then the list was 3 years of speech therapy, but if I get anxious or if I'm scared, you'll hear me do it. It comes out. I mean, I've got pretty amazing, shout out to the Porterville, California speech therapists in elementary school, because they really nailed this. But I don't even think about it anymore unless I get scared, and then it pops out.
Oh, awesome. Cool. You ready to do a rapid fire segment?
Bring it.
First thing that springs to mind, I'm not going to comment on them because I'll derail them, but I probably still will. What do you do for your mental health? You mentioned journaling and meditation. What have they done?
Journal. I journal. I've journaled since I was fifth grade. In fifth grade, I have. You want other ones that I do, or you want me to talk about those?
You can tell me whatever springs to mind, what you do and how they
I think
help.
journaling is really important. I write. I dance to music. I dance around to music. There's a lot of dancing around to music by myself. Yeah, those things.
And you mentioned you just come back to meditation. Why and what has it done
Just
for you?
came back to meditation. I think it just makes more space. It slows things down. I find the ability to be able to hold space, whether it be for myself or an emotion I'm feeling, or if I'm talking with someone. I move. I've come into agreement that my body and my brain move at a speed that is unreasonable for most people, and I think that it helps me. So when I'm talking to someone, I can hear what they're saying and like, slow down, Kirsten. Like, I can do that. So but also what I love about meditation is that I'm doing what I do in life in meditation. So I beat myself up, I judge it, I get perfectionistic-y, I get mad, and you have to come back. You have to come back. You have to come back. I try to change it. I try to come up with a different thing. You come back. And it's the same thing in life. So it's like practice for life. That's the other thing I love about it.
It sounds like you got that was lovely, but I'm not going to comment on them. It sounds like you got a lot of spiritual skills, for example. What has it allowed you to, hone in on them or honor your intuition?
I'm a person who I don't know what I have to have it. And it could be called magical thinking. It could be called whatever. I am a firm believer in whatever gets you to goddess, go there. Whatever gets you to God, go there, whatever it is. I really believe that all of us are just, even the worst of us are just spiritual friends trying to help us all, figure out the thing we need to figure out. And that's how I get by. If I thought that I was not a spiritual being having a human experience, if I thought that I was a human being having if I thought that, I would not be doing well. The only way I get by is to believe that there is a punchline to all of this, and it's a really good punchline. But I have to do this, fully engage and fully say yes and fully look at things and fully take radical responsibility for my experience, because I think that is the way through. And I think that that's all of our jobs. If we can all witness each other taking radical responsibility for our experience, we're going to be okay. And that way you can point out the people who aren't taking radical responsibility for their experience and blaming other people. And you can be like, okay, not cool, buddy. So, yeah.
And I know I wouldn't comment, but adding on to, as you said, some people are spiritual friends showing us how not to be as well. That's important, showing the mirror within. What are you most proud of?
Oh, what am I most proud of? Wow. I'm really proud of like all of the ages before me. She did a lot of really good work to give me a really good life.
What would you do if you knew you could not fail?
What would I do if I knew I could not fail? Here's the thing. I know I will fail and I do it anyway. So, I think I would do exactly what I'm doing, but not fail. I don't know. Like I think I would show, you know what I would do? I would share more, decisively my work. I would be more, intentional with things that I make and pieces that I make, and I would reach out to people and be like, hey, this is important to me that you be there, instead of like, I did a thing, come if you want, who cares, no big deal. So I think I would be more precious with my work. And here's the thing, I don't think I want to be more precious with my work. So I think I would like to enjoy the failing. There's a very good documentary about musicians that I think Rosanna Arquette did. And I remember there was this monologue about that Tom York was talking about. He was talking for a long time, but he was saying, you're making the song and then you beat yourself up about the mistake. But then this mistake is the thing that made the song great.
Yep.
So the failure is just the gold vein crack in the thing that keeps you from being the mass produced, anyone can have one of those. So I'm going to say, bring on the failure.
You've done my job for me. Thank you. Any advice you want to give to people who want to try something different or new, but perhaps a bit fearful of doing so?
Oh, okay. My therapist, who's got this from somebody else, but fear is excitement without breath. So I give that. Judi Dench says fear is our batteries. And if you're afraid, it means you care a lot. And how beautiful to care so much. And what a sacred thing you're doing. How brave and amazing to do that and to be afraid and to care. Do it.
Well done.
Thank you.
Oh, actually, will you bring back Kirsten's Agenda? And side point, the theme song is amazing.
Oh, thank you. I love Kirsten's Agenda, and I will bring it. Am I going to bring it back? It's sort of back. Like I say, it's back. It's been back because all of my things are my agenda, right? So I make my things. To make Kirsten's Agenda, it was hard because it was during the pandemic, and I was I was sort of doing it all on my own.
Yeah.
And now I could do it in a different way. I would still do it on my own, but I could have it, we could have someone filming it in the room with me and all that. That was all just me, by myself in my house. And I forget that people watched it even. Like, I forget that it was like, I was like, oh yeah, that was the thing that we did. And we were together doing that. And I probably will, when I get over my own hangups about perfectionism and failure and all that.
The theme song, my God, just, it was great, but the theme song, that just streamed me in.
Fun fact, if you stay tuned, if you follow my social medias, I am in the process. I've secured a studio. Ooh. And I'm going to be trying out making a play I'm working on. I don't know if I'll ever put it up anywhere else, but I'm going to create sort of live or just show things kind of like what I do at Bits, but most of it is songs that I've written. And so if you enjoyed my songs from Kirsten's Agenda, then you should stay tuned on my Instagram, because I will be doing this sort of live, and I want to do it simultaneously, like on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, all live at the same time. I want to do something for 15 minutes and then like talk about it.
That's so cool. Yes.
So we're gonna that's coming up in probably a couple of weeks. So stay alert.
Amazing. Last question before I ask how people can follow you and keep up to date with you. What's the one question I should have asked you?
Oh, that one. That question.
And
which is that you asked the questions that you were meant to ask. I don't know. What is that question you should have asked me? I think you did. I think this was true. So we did it.
Yeah, that's great. And how can people follow you, keep up to date with you, and all of that cool stuff?
Oh, good, because that was the one question I wish you would have asked me. So this is good that you're asking me now. If you can figure out how to spell my name, I'm on Instagram at Kirsten Vangsness. I'm on Blue Sky at Kirsten Vangsness. It's KIRSTENVANGSNESS. I am, I have a website I need to update, but it does have all the Kirsten's agendas on it. There's Kirsten's Agenda. That is my YouTube channel. There is KirstenVangsness.com. Am I missing anything? I don't think so. Those are the general places that I talk about things I'm doing.
Cool. I'll put them all in the episode notes so people can check them out. Thank you so much. Thank you for shining your light and embracing your authenticity. It's very empowering for me, and I know it'll be very empowering for others. So yeah.
Thank you,
so
Michael.
much.
Thank you for doing that too.
I love how Kirsten says just because you receive a no doesn't mean that it's an actual no. It just means pivot, and probably that door isn't right for you. It is important to remember that while you might not be a good fit for a specific situation, that doesn't mean that it still can't work out in another environment, experience, or situation. Kirsten is a reminder that there are always ways around the situations where we can flourish. Sometimes we just have to take a detour to get there. She is proof you can be authentic, unique, yourself, and thrive. So I'll leave you with this epic quote. Close some doors today, not because of pride, incapacity, or arrogance, but simply because they lead you nowhere. Paulo Coelho. Thank you for listening to the Funny and Failure podcast, exploring the deeper side of comedy.